Just what I'm meant to do the title. Okay, the lights all went off in the room.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi. Okay.
Cool thing about watching the little viewfinder is it looks like we're watching one of our videos before it's even been made. But
Well, that's what I thought. I always thought that anyway.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sick.
Gives me like kind of premiere.
Yeah.
Like we're premiering the video.
Welcome.
Welcome back.
Welcome
to
back.
How No. Interesting conversations.
Yeah.
Hot debates. Even hotter topics.
Yeah. Well, the topic this week is a scary story.
What?
Yeah.
Again?
Yeah, that's actually going to surprise some people who are brand new to the channel. But,
It-
whoa, that's
What?
great.
They're doing Scary Story Week. It's insane.
Yeah.
But we're going to move on to more like political side of debates. And
Oh, we will. Yeah.
we won't.
We will.
We won't. We won't ever. Rest assured.
Never going to happen.
Never going to happen.
It's me this time. I know I
Yes,
did the
it
last
is.
one. Yeah. I did the last one. We're changing it up. I'm doing this one again.
We are.
And Jack's doing one on Sunday.
It's been a busy week. So
Just sort of change things up.
you know, and we're keeping you on your toes. So then it'll be you, then me on a Sunday.
Uh-huh.
It's also quite fitting actually because my upcoming story perhaps has something to do with Sunday.
Stop trying to hijack my, it's my,
No.
my story.
Hijacking
I'm
you.
like getting hyped for your one now. It's me this week.
And I'm very excited.
Yes.
Every week we get more and more excited at the title.
Yeah.
And I can feel the fearful energy coming from you right now. So please, Daniel,
Okay.
please lay on me the title.
Title. Oh. Is that going to be okay?
They both went off.
Just what I'm meant to do the title. Okay, the lights all went off in the room. That was free. All right.
Okay. Whoa, that was weird, wasn't it?
So the title for this week's story is The Last Laugh. It's my story this week. The
Okay.
Last Laugh.
Timmy Garvin was a funny man. Not his words, the words of his family, who had made him the unofficial storyteller every Christmas. It was the words of his friends, who dubbed him class clown at school, a boy who knew how to shake the room with laughter, including the teacher at times. It was the words of his first girlfriend, who encouraged him to try stand-up comedy at university. Timmy said that wasn't his scene, that stand-up was so forced, so sterile, but really, he was just scared that the rooms of indifferent strangers wouldn't laugh at him, and they had paid him to do just that. Still, he gave it a go, and the crowd went wild. Every laugh gave him confidence and another booking. When graduation came, all his friends were discussing their next tentative steps into the big bad world of work, but for Timmy, it was an easy decision. With the fistful of notes he was raking in every weekend and his emails promising even more, he decided to go full-time. Every night of the week, Timmy would pull up to a new bar, to a sea of strange faces, and every night he'd leave with people slapping him on the back and buying him free drinks. On one such night, after a roaring gig at the Barrel, a drink slid Timmy's way from across the bar, along with a $50 bill. "That's for tonight," said Harry, the owner of the Barrel. Then came another 50. "That's for the sold-out crowd." Harry then placed a final 50 on top and patted them gently. "And that's if you come back and be a regular." Timmy didn't know what to say. How could he refuse? Being paid to drink, joke, and inflate his own ego? Now that was a career choice they never mentioned in school. Every week after that seemed to be better than the last. He honed his material, crafting it sharper with each laugh. He got rid of the bit about the Bahamas, that was too niche. He lengthened the bit about the elevator. They seemed to love that for some reason, and when he realised his facial reactions in the bit about the hipster cowboys had everyone in bits, he practiced that face in the mirror until it hurt. Of course, he'd throw in new bits every few weeks. He had to, now that the word was out. Timmy was the star of the Barrel, and nothing could change that. When July 4th rolled around, it was his biggest gig yet. Harry had to bring in extra chairs and turn a blind eye to regulations just to fit the crowd in. As he peeked out from the curtain, for the first time since his student days, Timmy felt nervous. Something squirmed in his stomach, telling him to not go on. He'd learnt by now to swallow that and press on through, even though this time it was particularly bad. After a few light slaps to the face and a shudder of his shoulders, he launched onto the stage to rapturous applause and a blinding spotlight. He breathed and began. His opening slayed them. Some of the regulars even tried to shout out the punchline, eager to show off to their friends they brought along, but Timmy would always get there first. After all, the drummer sets the beats. Before he knew it, his half hour was up, and like any comedian worth half his salt, he saved the best till last. Timmy regaled his trip to Egypt, about the camel that spat in his face. "Why do we even need them?" he boomed into the mic. "They're just horses with a bad attitude. Who saw a camel and thought, you know what, that looks like a creature that I want to jump onto the back of and ride off into the desert with? They've got a hump for a reason. They literally have a hump to tell us to get off them." The crowd howled. A woman on the front row spilt her drink, while her husband clutched his stomach with one hand and gestured for Timmy to stop with the other. For a moment, he took it all in. It was as if time had slowed. He scanned the room, each face as joyful as the next. His eyes rested on one girl at the very back, whose head was buried in her hands. Not an unusual way to laugh for some people, but when she looked up, it was not what Timmy was expecting. The woman was crying. Even though the light was dim, Timmy could clearly see her. More than just crying though, she was sobbing. Her bright red hair shook as she did. His eyes met hers. They were full of fear, a look of terror deeper than any Timmy had seen in his life. The crowd took his puzzled manner as part of the joke and burst into applause. The compere swept on stage. "A round of applause for Timmy, everyone. Funny man." Some of the crowd rose to their feet, obscuring his view as Timmy stepped off the stage. He caught a glimpse of the door swinging open and the back of the girl's head, which darted out onto the street, a swathe of red in tow. Timmy followed, shaking hands on autopilot with the crowd as he made his way through them. They slowed him so much that it was minutes before he stepped outside, looked both ways, and saw no one. A dog howled in the distance, and the wind blew a paper bag into the lamppost. That night disturbed Timmy more than he expected. At every gig in the following weeks, he'd scan the crowd for her, looking for a sad face in the room, but all he saw was laughter. Timmy began to doubt if it even happened at all. He told himself that perhaps she was cry-laughing, but that didn't explain the deep terror he saw in those eyes, a terror that seemed to have seeped into his very soul since then. He couldn't perform like this, and told Harry he was going to try a few shows on the other side of the city, try out some new material, and he'd be back, better than ever. The Trout and Scalp was the first place that replied to Timmy, so that's where he went. It was new territory. Nobody knew him over there. The sound system was different. The room had a strange echo. The beer tasted warm. Still, Timmy went in guns blazing. As it turns out, comedy is comedy, even on the other side of town, and the crowd loved him. "They've got a hump for a reason," he boomed into the mic. "They literally have a hump to tell us to get off them." Timmy barely finished the last word before he saw her again. Her red hair flashed in his peripherals. She was sat at the bar this time, but the look was still the same. A face of twisted horror that silenced Timmy's buzzing mind. He almost dropped the mic. He saw her lip quivering, and her hollow stare pierced him in just the same way through red eyes that looked like they'd been weeping for days. She slid off the bar stool and slammed open the fire exit. This time, Timmy didn't even wait for the host. He took a hasty bow and stumbled back behind the curtain. Backstage, he slumped onto an old amp and lifted his hands to his face. He was shaking. This wasn't nerves. He was pouring with sweat when just moments ago the blaring lights of the venue had failed to make him produce a drop. Most of all though, he felt scared. Timmy instinctually closed his eyes, counting his breaths to calm him. A hand touched his shoulder. Timmy shrieked and fell to the floor. Above him stood the confused owner. I just wanted to say, that was a great show, man. Thanks for that. Same again next week? Timmy scrambled to his feet and nodded. Thanks, thank you, but I'm gonna need a break. And Timmy meant it. The next day he was on the train to the next city, a weekend away, he told himself. In reality though, he felt like he was running, though he didn't know what from. A day of sightseeing didn't calm him, didn't rid his mind of her face. When night came, he hopped between bars, knocking back local specials under the guise of a connoisseur. He fell in with a group of Dutch tourists. As soon as they found out what Timmy did for a living, they excitedly dragged him to an open mic night around the corner. They just had to hear him live. Timmy was too drunk to resist, and rather keen to keep riding the first good night he'd had in weeks. Despite the alcohol, the small group there loved him. He was still miles better than the amateurs that came before. And the thing about camels, right, is... he stammered. The thing is, right... This time, she was standing by the bathroom. Her face was in a fixed scream, yet no sound came from her lips. She tugged at her hair and shook her head violently. She mouthed, "No, no, no." She staggered back, and Timmy staggered forward. Adrenaline began coursing through his veins. It was fight or flight, and there was nowhere to run now. "Hey! Hey!" he screamed into the mic. "Stop! Stop!" Timmy dropped the mic and began to pursue her. She was already out of the bar by the time he got off stage. He pushed the crowd out of his way, knocking one of the Dutchmen to the floor as he did. "Stop! Stop right now!" he roared as he slammed the doors open. He looked right, then left, then saw her, a glimmer of red heading down an alley. He dodged bins and puddles, slipping and sliding down the narrow paths, weaving between buildings. His eyes locked onto the back of her hair as she tried to escape. She was fast, but Timmy was faster. Just before they emerged onto a main road, Timmy lunged. He knocked her into a wall, and as she tried to recover, he pinned her to the floor. She screamed and scratched as he pulled her face to his. He brushed her hair back to reveal her terrified face. "Who are you?" he bellowed. She cried, "Tell me right now who you are. What is this? What's going on?" The tears still streamed down her face. Timmy shook her. "Why are you crying?" At that moment, she stopped. The tears almost seemed to dry in an instant. Her whole body relaxed in his grip. Her contorted face mellowed. Her lips slowly curled into a devilish smile. She leant forward. Her hair brushed against the side of Timmy's face as she pressed her lips to his ear and whispered, "Here's one for you. Why do we sometimes ask for receipts?" Timmy let go and pressed his back against the wall. "What?" he murmured. She laughed. "It's like, whenever they ask me if I want a receipt, I sometimes say yes, I sometimes say no, and I have absolutely no idea why." Timmy stared in horror at her. She laughed again. "I don't know why I say yes. It's like, sure, I'll need a receipt for that donut. I'm going to claim that back in taxes." Timmy shook his head. Stop! What are you doing?" But the girl kept laughing, and Timmy ran. Her laughter bounced off the alley walls after him. The sound rang in his head all the way home, and for the days and weeks after, when he locked himself in his apartment, too scared to leave, never mind explain to his friends what happened. That's probably why they thought they'd drag him out one night, cheer him up, take him to the barrel, where it all began. If he couldn't make others laugh, perhaps they could cheer him up. They stepped inside to rapturous laughter. Timmy heard her before he saw her, red hair swaying around the mic stand. The crowd calmed down. "What's the deal with receipts, by the way?" A few people chuckled, but before she could continue, she locked eyes with Timmy. He was already crying, shaking his head, a look of grim horror fixed on his face. she froze too, with a confused and shocked expression. In that moment, Timmy burst out the door. She dropped the mic, staggered off the stage, and though the crowd slowed her down, she pursued, running out of the door into the street, looking for answers.
I don't know why, but that was absolutely terrifying.
No, I know. Sorry, I don't mean I know the concept like scares me.
I don't know why, but that was absolutely terrifying. And I don't know why.
I know. Yeah.
That was masterful. Oh, I feel a bit weird. Dude. I was thinking all the way through it. Is it Edward Munch who did the screen painting?
Yes, well, that's what I was picturing.
Okay, well,
that's what I was.
Did that. Isn't it fantastic, Daniel, that you can speak a set of words and literally implant an idea in my mind? Because that's exactly
what I was picturing.
That's exactly what I saw. It was the one scene, I think, because you, by the way, rule of threes, you absolutely nailed that.
I know, did I?
There was a real like fairy tale, modern fairy tale. I don't know, I felt that you didn't even need to tell us where it was set. It was almost like Roald Dahlian. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of like, I don't know, it was real dripping with style, that was, and it was like seamless. We'll get into the technical stuff, but like the Munch painting, is it Edward Munch?
Edward Munch, yeah.
I don't know what, as soon as you started speaking and like describing that woman crying, I just had that in my head.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was picturing. That's so weird you say that.
Yeah, and as it slowly as it went through the second stage and the third stage, I just vividly saw, and when you said it, and like that, she was like contorted in a scream, I was just like, that is so weird. That's exactly how I saw it all the way. That's one thought I have for it. Another thought is a fantastic film called Pontypool, which is a Canadian film actually, and it's like a traditional zombie apocalypse film, but it's not. It's like about a radio presenter who is on his show whilst like the apocalypse is happening, but the apocalypse is transferred through audio and like words and stuff like that, and it's like almost like a mimetic kind of like disease. And it also felt like that. That's my second kind of feeling about it. It's kind of like a strange fairy tale / Black Mirror kind of cautionary tale about stealing other people's content. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
But but also stuck in that like duality. So is he? I love this, by the way. For viewers of the show regularly, the majority of my stories have more questions than answers, and I love that. But I think that's why I feel so kind of like my mind's just racing with what the hell that is.
Yeah.
But you painted such a vivid picture that you delivered on that.
I've got like loads of answers to everything you said.
Oh, amazing. Okay. See, I never have answers.
Well, they're not sort of like you know, absolute solid or that's just an explanation. But yeah, it was this, you know, we talked a lot about writing stories that, you know, are concise and sort of have a beginning, middle and end. Yeah. And also ones that leave these questions. And I was trying to do something that was a bit of both.
Yes.
Like it very much does have a beginning, middle and end.
Yes.
But I want to be cyclical.
Yes.
Cyclical?
Cyclical, yes.
Cyclical. So it's
definitely found that.
So it leaves you a question. It doesn't have a beginning, middle and end, but where does it begin? Where does it end? You know, like what's, you know, and it leaves
the punchline was, there is no punchline. Which was, the punchline is, that's what's going to get you. Yeah. Which is great.
Yeah, going back to what you said about the screen painting, that is something that I really pictured.
Yeah.
Because, and I think what scares me about that, and I think what I was trying to paint with this story, was the thought of someone looking at you with horror. Mm-hmm. Is what is scary. Someone looking at you with terror. Mm-hmm. You know, going up and seeing that painting, and that person looking at you, or you know, and they're just terrified.
Yes.
And I've told you that story about a friend who came to visit once that I woke up on the couch, and he was quite startled. I won't go into the details, but I woke a friend on the couch at once, and he looked at me with absolute horror, and I was terrified.
Yes.
And that's another thing I was picturing, and yeah, just someone looking at you with horror when you're not scared. And I was trying to also flip. You know, I was thinking like all the characters we've written are the scary ones. Yeah. You know, but like what about someone who is so scared of you and you don't know why. Isn't that like
that's brilliant?
A scary
concept.
You
got my heart racing a little bit as well.
Yeah,
and that's so weird that we're both completely on tune with the Munch painting, like the screen painting, because that's exactly what I pictured.
It's scary. That's what I think. That's why it's so scary.
Yeah,
it's like.
And when you wrapped it in this nice, like, comedic vibe and stuff, like, it was perfect. The duality. Them were two feelings, like the Munch painting, Pontypool, some kind of mimetic, kind of like weird auditory or maybe like impressionistic kind of planting an idea in someone else's mind, and then that being horrific, and then the duality of kind of like horror and comedy, and it's the switch of perspective where both of them shine, because it was. Yeah, that was really good. Like, again, leading to the technical, I said we're bringing back technically masterful. Like, I have nothing else to say other than the fact that it was brilliant.
And one other theme I was thinking of was writing, it was like, I don't know.
Well, like, again, I was going to say, that's the second story that you've completely embodied, no.
I want to be like that too.
Yeah, man. And it was just so creepy. And I didn't know why.
Well, that's the thing. Is that's what I was trying to explain, that feeling of looking at a painting like Scream or someone looking at you being scared is scary.
It is.
But like every faces are sort of facial expressions are infectious. You look at someone, they're laughing, it's hard not to laugh. You look at someone, they're yawning, you want to yawn. Like we copy that. And same again, if you look at someone, it's scary if they're scared, especially if it's at you and you don't know why.
Yeah,
that's like, it's like, why?
It's almost like there's a not old, but one of the first creepypastas is the Smiling Man. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
The guy who's walking.
Another thing I was thinking of.
He's walking down the street at like 4 a.m. on his nice, like, beautiful, like, midnight, obviously post-midnight walk. And a guy sees him. That is horrifying. A guy that won't stop smiling at him, and you don't know why. I think we had this conversation about, I think it was something to do with After Simon Says. I'm not sure if we did it on camera or off that camera. By the way, if you haven't seen Simon Says, Danny, great story, it's fantastic. But it's almost like seeing a person that is like laughing or whatever, or take laughing for this time, and it goes on too long. When it goes on too long, it becomes a strange, almost like uncanny valley dip into something that shouldn't be. And that's, I think, you hit on that note very well. Just like David Lynch does it a lot, just kind of like long shots on the same emotion. It's very unsettling. Very unsettling.
I can see that.
I should be looking at him because he was laughing. See, we incepted it.
I
think we just demonstrated.
I
think we just demonstrated exactly what that was.
And one other last theme, again, that's a minor themes now, but talking about humans feeling whatever they're looking at someone else doing. It was sort of like an emotional version of like, when you see someone throwing up and you feel sick and you want to throw up as well. Sometimes just seeing someone throw up makes you want to throw up. And like we've talked before about that comes from like millennia ago when we lived in small tribes and you ate the same thing as everyone else and you see them throw up. And it's something about like, if that person's so scared of me, then what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me on an emotional level? Or what's wrong with me on a, what have I got? I need to get it out, And
fear is in the eye of the beholder.
Right. It's like, I've got to get it out of me.
Wow.
But you can't throw it up. Like, how do you throw that up in a fear way or in a emotional way?
Really good, mate. A lot of layers on that one. Wow, done. That was up there with one of my favourites, actually.
Well, on that note, maybe the score.
Ooh. What's the highest score I've given you?
I think the Balkan was 8.3, I think.
I think it was an 8.3.
Yeah.
The Balkan is my favourite.
Yeah.
And it continues to be my favourite.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed that story. Just be a lot more after we discussed it as well. Like in the moment, like it was, you paint a beautiful picture. Like that was a very vivid picture. Dialogue was spot on. It didn't quite snip the Balkan because I just love that story. But for me, that was a very solid 8.2.
Oh, 8.2. Oh, wow.
It would have been. I had it in my head after you finished speaking a flat 8.
Yeah.
But for the reasons that we've developed through the story, through our kind of back and forth, diatribe, 8.2.
And I'm really glad that we could do that, because this was one of those ones that the feeling really did come first.
Yes.
It wasn't so much like, oh, I just want to tell this story, or we've got one burn in mind. It was like, when a feeling inspires a story, then it's very easy to explain it after.
And you nailed that feeling.
So that's why I really enjoyed all the little extra conversation after. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Good job.
It's a fun one
It's
to
so
write.
weird that I had that screen painting in my head.
It was exactly, and that's the bit where when I said to you before we started filming this, I got a bit of chills at one point. It was my first picture locking eyes with her, and she's just like horrified.
It's like that scene in Haunting of Hill House as well.
Yeah.
With Nell. That scene where they can see her and she can't speak and I don't want. I forgot. Don't get that up, Cassie. Don't get that up.
I forgot I watched that. Oh, man.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like that locked. Oh, okay. On that note, we're both getting incredibly scared. If you have an incredibly scary story to send us, please could you send it to this email address. We're actually going to kind of recalibrate the way that we do live streams, and I'm not sure whether we're going to tell it in this video or.
Well, why don't we finalise it, and then for your one on Sunday, we'll announce it.
We'll either announce it on Sunday or we'll do it in a little live stream. Perhaps.
Yeah.
We'll kind of do like a keeping house, and we'll talk about stuff. Because we've got some really exciting ideas for you in terms of the live stream that we really want you to get on board with, and we feel like it's going to be a much more dynamic, interactive thing where we can actually kind of have a conversation, which is what we always wanted.
Yeah, I really feel like we're going to step up the live streams now.
Yeah. Also, we're like on nearly 9,000 subscribers, so thank you so much, everyone.
It's looking really well.
We don't. Yeah,
I feel like we should be changing more. It's just the same every week at the minute.
I know, right?
Hanging out.
God, we need to scrub the forest stuff a bit, don't we?
Yeah, we're going.
We have a lot.
Changing.
Yeah, we have a lot. Actually, I think it's a good idea if we do a keeping house live stream and just talk about where we want to go.
Exactly. Yeah, good idea. Yeah,
and on that note, still keep sending your stories in because we love them. We try to read all of them. He's been Danny Burke.
That's Jack Finch.
You've been watching Haha Oh No. Usually, if you haven't watched this video before, this channel before, we try our utmost to blow the fire out. I think we should laugh it out. No, that's so scary.